So let's start at the bottom and work up. As you know, every building needs a foundation system, and typically you think of a concrete strip footing or a raft foundation, but actually here at my home project we try and limit the amount of concrete that we use purely because it's not very good for the environment. So what we have here is we have a typical ground screw, and we have some adjustable plastic pedestals that are telescopic. Now, why do we use these? Let's start with the ground screw. It is what it says on the tin. It is a screw that goes in the ground, and our structures can sit flat on top of the SIPs. They can be bolted to the SIPs if you wish. So these go straight into the ground and your building sits on top. Now, it depends obviously what type of ground you are going into, whether you're going into clay, flinty ground, made ground, all sorts. Ground screws are a good solution for basically all ground types. They produce about a quarter of the embedded carbon compared to concrete, and of course they have the added advantage of, at the end of the building's life cycle, you can remove them. Whereas with concrete, quite often you have to smash it up, dig it out, and it's not really reusable again. Obviously these are put in with a laser level, and you can set the height of all of them, and that means that you are provided with an incredibly accurate flat surface to start building the building from. The next option are plastic pedestals. Now, these might not look much, but they are rated to safely take a load of 1 ton each. Now, that is the safe working load, let's say, but actually the breaking load of one of these is over 7 tons. So it doesn't matter if you need a big one like that or a smaller one like that, depending on the gradient of an existing slab. We can build basically on any existing slab, even if there's a fall on it. We could have that one up there, that one there. We achieve a flat surface, and then we can put our floor SIPs straight on these. If you would like to know more about our foundation systems, then go ahead and watch this video up here, which will go into more depth about how we install the ground screws, how we use these plastic pedestals for your project. But do rest assured that there is a solution for every ground scenario that you might have at your property. So then, we've installed your foundations. What's next? Well, for us, the next step is the floor. And the floor is made out of SIPs. We build the whole superstructure out of SIPs, the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. And I'll go over a bit more how that all ties in a moment. But just to show you what a SIP panel is, a brief overview, we have 11mm OSB, we have X amount of insulation, and then 11mm OSB. Essentially, the SIPs panel is either made by bonding the OSB to the insulation, or the gap between the OSB is filled with a polyurethane expanding foam, which creates your insulation in there. Now, this type of SIPs panel is an EPS SIPs panel, which means it is a preformed polystyrene panel, which is then glued to the OSB. Quality control of these panels is fantastic. They're done in the factory, as well as the polyurethane panels. They're brilliant too, but both have their advantages and disadvantages. If you would like to know more about the SIPs panels themselves, then we've got a video for that as well. So how do we build with SIPs? Well, here is a 3D cross-section that I've had for far too long, and I've been meaning to make this video for far too long, but finally we're making it. So now you can see we have our floor SIPs down here, we have our wall, and we have our ceiling. SIPs can come in many different variations of size, depending on your needs and insulation properties that you require, but typically we will use a 100mm SIP in the floor and walls, and 122mm SIP in the ceiling, just to achieve that extra bit of insulation in the roof, because obviously heat rises, you don't want it to escape, and also the sun beating down on the roof, it just gives you a bit more protection from that external heat. We join the SIPs panels together with these timbers, so all around the perimeter there'll be a timber. In between each SIP panel themselves there is a rebate cut into the insulation and a timber is put in. We use glue, foam and nails to secure them. And once we've done the floor, we can come along with the sole plate of the wall SIP, and we screw this sole plate down through the OSB and into the perimeter timber. So it's really tied in well there. Then we do a layer of foam, a layer of glue down each of the sides. And then again, we put the SIP panel on, nail along, and we repeat that pattern at every junction where a floor meets a wall and a wall meets a ceiling, which means you get a really homogeneous, very strong structure, which is the main benefit of why we're using SIPs. So unlike typical timber framing, you have the different studs, and then you have a wall plate and a sole plate. And then finally, once you sheathe it, that's when it really gains its strength. But with SIPS panels, they're bonded together and they act as one piece, one structure. On top of the ceiling, we go straight on with our rubber roof. We are accredited Rubber Roof Direct installers, and this rubber roof goes straight on top of the SIPS panel with our EPDM rubber. And on the walls, we have a breather membrane, our battens, and then our cladding. But I'll talk more about that in a moment. As you can see on the inside, we can finish it in several different ways. If your building is just going to be a workshop or a storage unit, we can of course leave the SIPS panels exposed. We can still put power cables, either running cabling on the outside or in trunking. Our most common interior finish is battening out the inside wherever there are cables, and then plasterboarding or plasterboarding straight on top of the SIPS panel if there are no cables or sockets on that particular area of the wall. Then on the ceiling, again, we can batten out, so we can run cables for your downlights and spotlights and what have you, and then plasterboard, plaster and paint white. So really you can produce a very, very high quality internal finish with these. On top of the floor SIPS, we have our 18 or 22mm moisture resistant chipboard floor, and that is glued and screwed down to the floor SIPS. Gives it a bit more rigidity to walk on. Then we've got our underlay and our laminate flooring. This is our typical finish for the inside of, let's say, a garden office or a playroom. But of course, you can have any finish you would like on the inside, whether it's LVT or vinyl or even carpet, some people ask for. So anything can go down on the floor of SIPS. Just turning around to the back, you can see how we have our rubber roof comes down onto our gutter drip, and this drips into the gutters. We supply and build everything from the SIPS to the electrics to the guttering to the cladding. We are an all-in-one turnkey service. So we've got our guttering here, we've got our cladding, our metal anthracite cladding, and then this is one other finish of cladding that we have, which is our treated redwood battens with a 4mm shadow gap. And behind that we have a black membrane so that you can't see through to the grey breather membrane. We have our air gap where our battens are, and then we have, you can see our breather membrane on the outside of the SIPS there. So in a nutshell, this is how we build our outbuildings and SIPS structures, and it's suitable for home offices, for annexes, for all types of construction. Well, there we go, everybody. I hope you now understand and have a bit of knowledge of our SIPS construction outbuildings, whether it's a home office, a gym, a sauna. This same construction method can be applied to all different types of outbuildings. If you do have any inquiries or you would like an outbuilding of your own, then please do get in touch, either hello@myhomeproject.co.uk or send us a message through the website. And don't forget, if you would like more information on ground screws, the plastic pedestals, SIPS themselves, or any of our finishes, all of our different videos will be linked in the description below. So don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.